You're live.
Hello, everyone. Last week, Governor Ron DeSantis announced his plans to reopen Florida, which went into effect yesterday. And now we're starting to see a lot of things change here on the Space Coast and throughout Florida. One of the things that people are really looking forward to is going out to eat again. After all, we've been cooped up for about a month, and I think most of you are really tired of cooking, or at least trying to cook if you didn't before. Today, I'm going to have a chat with our food writer, Suzy Leonard, as she has been watching the restaurant scene, and she's going to be talking to us about which restaurants are reopening and kind of what they're trying to do to adapt to this new situation. Dave Berman, our government editor, was supposed to join us as well, but he's having some technical difficulties. So we hope to have him again some other time. But welcome, Suzy.
Hi.
So I am doing well. Have you gone out to eat yet to a restaurant since Monday?
I have not. I had every intention of going out last night, but I had already gone grocery shopping, and I was afraid that if I didn't cook, I bought seafood. So I didn't want my shrimp to go bad, so I cooked last night. I'm planning to go out probably either tonight or tomorrow night to check out how things are going.
Yeah, so I did a story, I believe, late last week about kind of how restaurants and cafes are responding to this. And I was actually reading, I think one of the restaurants you spoke to, I think it was Scott's on Fifth. They said that because now they have to reopen with 25% capacity, it's not worth it for them because eventually they will not be able to make enough money to make up for having employees working those days. What is the response that you're getting from restaurants? Are they feeling that it's worth to be open right now?
Well, some of them are just really excited to have customers back in the dining rooms again. Their servers are happy to be working. They're just ready to, we've all been kind of store crazy. They're just ready to see people and be around people. And so there's some places that are really excited to reopen. The smaller places, like Scott's on Fifth, these places that have a capacity for, 50 people, at a quarter of, 25% capacity, they would be opening for 10 seats. And, once you bring in staff and you buy the supplies and, it's, you pretty much lose money to be open for that few diners. So these places are waiting a few more weeks to see what's happening, and they'll make a decision if it changes to 50% capacity or 75% capacity. Then I think we'll see some of these smaller restaurants going ahead and opening up.
And then you have a story posted at floridatoday.com right now with a list of restaurants that are reopening. I don't expect you to give us the entire list, but give a few places that have already opened.
Well, most of them, some of the bigger restaurants, Frigates on the Water, Yellow Dog down in the south end of the county. Some places are only opening with outdoor dining. We've got places like Murdoch's and Cocoa Village that they're just doing outside seating. They're not letting people come inside. So I think I've got about 70 or 80 restaurants on that list, and I'm getting more every day. I mean, ranging from Eats, which is a little, kind of cafe in Suntree. Amici's in Suntree is a place that they were kind of uniquely situated. Amici's includes 4 different eating options that are interconnected. So they've got the bakery, which is it's its own separate entity, but there's also the chef's table, which is a high-end steakhouse, and then the wine cellar, which is a retail and kind of sit-in wine bar, but they're all connected. So they're able to open all three of those, have a lot of space, socially distanced seating, as well as a back patio. So, they're kind of uniquely situated to be able to admit a lot of people and still follow the guidelines. Where usually you would only be able to get the chef's table menu in the chef's table, they're letting people order from the Amici's menu or the chef's table menu and wherever they're sitting. So it's just kind of a broad spectrum of who is open and who isn't yet.
And how big of a financial hit have restaurants taken? I assume it's pretty big, but how big?
It's been really, really, really traumatic. And, restaurants operate at a pretty, I've had some restaurant owners tell me that it's like a 3% profit margin. So when you're talking, even when they have landlords that are waiving their rent and, letting them pay their April and May rent later, they're barely making enough to pay the rent this month, and then to have to be able to catch up for 3 months of rent is going to be really devastating for some of these restaurants. I'm already hearing of some that may not reopen when all is said and done, which is just kind of heartbreaking because these are people who pour their heart and soul into this business. You don't get into the restaurant business to get rich. You get into it because you love feeding people. And this is their life, and they're just it's really sad to hear some of the stories that these people are dealing with.
Okay. And what are these restaurants doing to adapt? Because I hear a lot of people saying, I'll go if I feel that that place is clean enough or that I trust them to take all the precautions. What are some of the things that they're doing to make sure that people feel safe going to their establishments?
Well, a lot of places are going to single-use menus. So you know how sometimes you'll go to a restaurant and you'll get a menu and you're like, oh, what's this grease smudge on here? Well, that places are going away from that. You're the only person who will see that menu, or they'll let you scan a QR code and you can read their menu on your phone. So you never have to touch anything. Some of them are doing touchless paying. So, they hold the screen, you stick your card in. So nobody touches anything. One of the big things that restaurants are doing to adapt right now is, you have 25% capacity inside. You can't change how big your dining room is. So, your 25% is your 25%. But a lot of places are trying to figure out ways to seat more people outside, because you can seat as many people outside as you have room for, and as long as they're 6 feet apart. So it's not like, you can only seat 50 people. If you have space, you can seat as many people as you can squeeze in there, as long as all the tables are 6 feet apart and the parties are not larger than 10. So a lot of restaurants, or some of the cities in the county, are passing temporary measures allowing restaurants to set up tables outside, set up tables on the sidewalk. I know the city of Melbourne has passed a temporary measure that allows restaurants to apply for a temporary permit to have seating in parking lots and other outside areas, to have seating on the sidewalks and things like that. And they're not charging a permit fee. So they just have to kind of tell the city, here's what we want to do. And then the city grants them permission and they can set up. I know Helen Blazes got their temporary permit today. In fact, right before we got on this call. So they're going to be out setting up chairs, tables and chairs in their parking lot. So that will just give them some extra seating, extra place to put people, extra income, and I'm hearing from a lot of people that they feel a lot safer and more comfortable if they're sitting outside, like at Ryan's Pizza in Cocoa Village. I know a lot of people who were there yesterday because they could sit on the upper deck. There was plenty of room. The breeze was blowing. They felt like that was a more safe environment than being in a closed-in dining room.
So it seems that places with outdoor seating have a certain inherent advantage too, right? That they
Exactly.
are
Yes.
better positioned to survive in this new environment.
I think so, because I am no expert, so I don't know if it's a false sense of security, but people just feel better if they're outside, if they're not breathing air-conditioned, recycled air. They just feel better if they're in the sunshine and the fresh air. I don't blame them. I feel better if I'm outside too.
Yeah, I honestly haven't thought about going to a restaurant. I feel personally I'm not ready to sit at a table and have a waiter or waitress approach me. That's still, but I'm sure that a lot of people are at that point. And I'm wondering, you run a Facebook group called 321 Flavor. You have thousands of members. What are people saying about how comfortable they feel about going to a restaurant?
Well, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people who, it's kind of split. A lot of people were just excited to get out, and especially some of these people who live alone, and some of the older people who they've been alone, they've been by themselves, they haven't been able to go out with their friends for 6 or 8 weeks, and they're just bored and lonely. And a lot of them, I've loved seeing pictures of some of my friends and some of the people who are members of the group. I know Friday, a lady who's a member of the group retired, and so several of her friends got together. They went to Telly's in Sentry, and they got takeout, and they parked their cars 6 feet apart, and they all kind of sat on the back of the cars and sat in the parking lot feet apart and ate their lunch. So they're just craving companionship and craving the ability to get together with their friends. So you have people like that, and then younger people who are, again, just bored and ready to go out, ready to support their favorite restaurants, tired of cooking. If they're like me, tired of loading and unloading the dishwasher. How many times have you unloaded the dishwasher?
A lot more, I'll tell you that.
But then there are a lot of people, especially some of these people who have conditions that health conditions that might compromise their, compromised immune system and things like that. And these people are still afraid. I mean, they just don't think it's worth chancing it. And I've talked to a couple of them who, they say they miss their restaurants and they miss their friends too, but they are just not ready to chance it yet. So staying home, they're getting takeout. They're, they still want to support the restaurants, but they're doing that through takeout and things like that.
And the takeout portion, have restaurants been able to at least get by selling takeout, or is that just not enough for them to make up for like the dining in revenue that they used to get?
I think some of them have been pretty successful at it. A lot have started selling groceries and things like that. So, in addition to your meal, they've been doing these family style meals instead of just ordering a burger and fries. You can order a meatloaf for 4 and mashed potatoes and things like that. So some places have been moderately successful. I know there are other places that, basically the servers are working for tips. Everything is going to pay the rent and to pay to pay the electricity bills and things like that. And that's one of the smaller restaurants, because, I've asked someone, it's like, well, why didn't you open for takeout? And there are several reasons for not opening for takeout, but one of them, there's certain types of food that just don't travel well. If you have a beautiful piece of fish that you eat in the restaurant and it's delicious, if you put that in a styrofoam box or any kind of box and close it up, and the steam kind of cooks it, by the time you get it home, it's just kind of mushy and ugh. So there's some places that, some of the higher end places that you don't go there. You go there for the food because it's delicious, but you also go there to be pampered. And it's like, you can paint your own nails, but go to the nail salon because it's nice to be pampered and to be taken care of. And that's what restaurants do for us. We can cook, we can feed ourselves, but when you go to a restaurant, they take care of you. And you can't replicate that experience by getting a box of takeout and eating it at your own kitchen table.
Yeah, and before we wrap up this conversation, what is your prediction of what the restaurant scene will look like in a couple of months? Do you think we're going to lose a lot of these really good places that have blossomed in the last few years?
I have talked to several experts about this, and I have heard people predicting anywhere from 20% to 40%, even as high as 50%, which is terrifying to me. I would hope that our wonderful local restaurants would still be around when things open back up a little bit more. Everybody keeps talking about the new normal. We're not going to go back to the way it was. We're not going to just jump in a time machine and go back to January where we just, went to the bars and went to the restaurants and hugged our friends and things like that. I think we'll be having people, spaced out, sitting far apart for months to come. It may, maybe even a couple of years. I don't like the thought of, for the rest of my life, going to restaurants and seeing people wearing masks and having my servers wear masks and things like that. And that's certainly a requirement. Not all restaurants are doing that, but some certainly are. I do think that this has kind of given a big push to the takeout food industry. Restaurants have learned to innovate and do things differently from how they've done them before with takeout. And, instead of just doing their regular menu, they've done these special menu items that do travel well. And when you get home, they're almost as good as they would have been if you'd had them in the restaurants. And then places that are doing these meal kits that you take home and, they're ready to pop in the oven. I think we're going to continue to see that kind of dining in the months to come. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I do hope the 50% prediction is wrong, because that would be horrible to see. But still on the topic of food, but now animal food, the Brevard is saying that it needs donations. That was a good segue. I pat myself. The Brevard Zoo is saying that it needs donations to continue to feed its animals. As the Brevard Zoo has been closed since, I believe, March. I might be wrong here, but they do have lost revenue, and they are a nonprofit, so it's not like, that's probably not a very easy business model to have right now. So what are they doing to get donations to feed those animals?
Well, and like you said, our zoo, we've always been really proud that our zoo is a true community zoo. It was built by the community. It was built with money raised by the community. I mean, community volunteers literally went in and laid the bricks and dug the flower beds. I mean, it is a true community zoo. And we've always been really proud that our zoo does not take government funding. It's, it's completely independent and self-sustaining. But right now, it is getting no money. And I think the child admission is about $14 and the adult admission is $24. And April and March, April, May are generally the busiest times that the zoo has, and it's packed. If you go in there, it's full of kids and it's full of grandparents taking their grandkids around, and the splash is full of squealing and happy, and it's just all exciting and fun. Well, that, just like everything else in our economy, that just came to a screeching halt. So we're not getting zoo admission. We're not buying any food at the concession stand, and we're not buying stuffed animals in the gift shop. So they just went from having their biggest months of the year with their most income to getting nothing. And it costs about, so they were trying to raise $40,000 to cover the food for 2 months. And so $20,000 a month to feed all the animals. They are, let me see if I can find my stats. have the stats on how many animals there are. I think there are 500 animals and 195 species.
Suzy,
And
it's me. Your story, because I just read it for News and 90, said 900.
900. Okay. So I have my little text here from okay. So and then they're different. Some of the different animals, for example, the cheetah. I guess the cheetah's a cheap date. It costs $42 a week to feed one cheetah.
Okay.
And we have 4 cheetahs. The giraffes, they're a little more, they're a little more high maintenance. They cost $129 a week to feed a giraffe, but we have 10 of those. So that's a lot of giraffe food in a week. And then for the rhinos, the rhinos are big eaters. They cost $300 a week to feed. We've got 3 rhinos. It costs $900 a week just to feed the rhinos. So the zoo has, today is Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is traditionally the Tuesday after Christmas, but this year it's kind of been decided that all the nonprofits in the area are struggling because they've shut down thrift shops. Everything is just shut down. So the zoo is calling today Giving Zoo Day or Zoos Day. It's cute, but so they have an online portal and they're asking people to donate what you can, and go ahead and buy an annual membership. Do something to support the zoo. I did hear from Elliot, who's the communications manager of the zoo, and from Keith Winston, who's the executive director, and they are pretty close to their 40,000 goal already. So they are really, really just overwhelmed by the generosity of the community. So, they're close to that goal. That doesn't mean that they're done. So if you want to keep giving, they still don't know when they're going to be able to reopen. And again, it's like everyone else, when they do reopen, they don't know at what capacity they'll be able to reopen and they'll be able to, what they'll be able to make. One other little thing that Keith told me earlier this week was the zoo makes the majority of its money January to June. So it makes money the first half of the year, and then it loses money the second half of the year. But because it made so much money in the first half of the year, it can make up for the deficits in the second half of the year. Well, that's not going to happen this year. They are not making money this year, the first half of the year. So, anything that they can make right now, any donations they can bring in, will just help them keep going.
Well, that's a great opportunity to support the zoo, and we're about to wrap up here, but I want to make sure that, like Suzy said, today is Giving Tuesday, and we're asking you to support your local news outlets. It's really important. It is with your support, with your subscription, that we at Florida Today can continue to deliver local news. And by the way, nobody else can provide at the same level and with the same level of expertise as our reporters at Florida Today. If you're interested in purchasing a digital subscription, there are several offers on our website. You can go to floridatoday.com/subscribe, and please consider supporting your local news outlets. It's very important, and we thank you for those who are already subscribers. And this is it for our conversation with Suzy Leonard, our food writer. Thank you, Suzy, for being here with me today. We're all looking.
Thanks for letting me join you.
Yes, and thank you, and keep reading her story. She's going to keep updating us on which restaurants are opening and what's going on in our local food scene. And that's it. Go to floridatoday.com to read Suzy's articles, and I'll see you again next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.